Live tonight to dive into the report and what happens next is federal defense attorney Ronald Chapman. Ronald, thanks for joining us once again. What is your take on the 814-page report? What jumped out at you?
Well, Julie, it's a compelling report. It's a wonderful piece of legal work. It outlines the case that Donald Trump knew that his dubious legal claims that were filed, that his attempt to get Pence to not certify the election, that he knew those were false and those were an obstruction of Congress. I think they've got him dead to rights on that charge alone right there. There's also obviously the case for insurrection. That's a little bit of a harder case because they have to connect Donald Trump's words to the actions of the rioters or the folks who entered the Capitol that day. A little bit more of a difficult case, but the report is compelling, and it makes a wonderful case for all points that Congress is looking at here.
Well, it's important to bring up that many Republicans have disavowed the January 6th committee. It's basically not going to go anywhere other than where it is in the new year with Republicans coming into more power. So this is basically at this point a record for history. How do you think it will be regarded in history?
Well, certainly that is a fair criticism. I mean, this is largely a symbolic committee. Other than their subpoena power, they didn't have the ability to charge anybody. But that's obviously going to be sent to the special prosecutor in this case, who will review this information as well as other information to determine whether or not a charge is appropriate. I think that this text application in history will be to explain exactly what happened on that day and try to make other recommendations in addition to actions against Donald Trump to ensure that we won't have anything like that at the Capitol. A thing that's likely overlooked in this report by a lot of people is that there's a recommendation to strengthen the laws of our country to ensure that this can't happen again, strengthen Capitol security, and strengthen the process to ensure that we have a peaceful transfer of power, which ultimately is the aim of this committee. So I think it will be regarded well as we move forward in history.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the Department of Justice. You mentioned the special prosecutor appointed to investigate all of this information. So how much of an effect does the report have on the DOJ's decision to bring charges against the former president?
And Julie, that is a double-edged sword. So as a lot of us in the criminal defense community know, prosecutors like to act in secret. When they like to bring a charge, they don't want to have a whole bunch of public information attached to it. Here we have witnesses that had testimony that was taken under oath. The problem with that is there are statements that implicate Trump, but there also may be statements that protect Trump, and he can use those as part of his defense as he moves forward. So when the special prosecutor is looking at this, they're going to look at it now knowing that Donald Trump has access to the same information that he does. They may decide to pursue different directions simply because of that fact, because there's now a lot of public information shared. As we know, the special prosecutor is looking at tax issues, looking at mishandling of classified documents, looking at insurrection, looking at attempts to obstruct Congress. All of those things will be taken into consideration, and a charging decision may likely come down the road in the near future.
Well, Ronald, we have about 30 seconds left, but the most serious charge I remember from when we talked before, aiding an insurrection, correct? What kind of charge could he face? What kind of penalty could he face for such a charge?
Well, certainly a federal felony. If I remember correctly, I believe it's a 10-year felony. That would be a maximum amount of jail time. Usually people don't do the maximum. In this case, I certainly think it could be possible if he's indicted for that. But I think the most important part of the insurrection charge is it seeks to bar Donald Trump from ever taking office again, which I think is exactly what the January 6th committee is looking for. And if there was ever a bargain to be had between Donald Trump and the Department of Justice, it would probably be rescinding his attempt to run for the presidency.
Right, great point. Federal defense attorney Ronald Chapman, thank you so much for your time and happy holidays.
Thank you, you too, Julie.